Hey everybody! Well, we're introducing two new concepts here, which are the phases of the moon and eclipses. So we'll learn more about these later, but we're just learning how to define these actual words firstly. So let's look at phases of the moon first. And you might have noticed that over each month, the moon changes shape. So we've all seen that sometimes there's a full moon, and that's when you can see the whole moon. But then other times, hardly any of the moon's visible at all, and you have this crescent-shaped moon here. And the fact that the moon changes regularly in a cycle, that is called the phases of the moon. So a good way to define it is it's the changes in how much of the moon is visible to us each day or night. How much of the moon is visible. And remember that the moon isn't the moon isn't making its own light. The only object that makes light is the sun. So all we're seeing is the light that comes from the sun, and it hits the moon and then reflects off it. So the moon is bright because it reflects light. It reflects the sun's light. Okay, and I said it already that the phases of the moon are a cycle. So this picture here, we can imagine if we start with a full moon, we go around, back to here, and then we end up with a full moon again later on. And the length of that cycle is a whole month. So we can call it that one moon cycle is a month. So if you write down the date of when a full moon is, then it's going to be a whole month until the next full moon. Okay, the next word to learn about is eclipses. And eclipse is the singular. Eclipses is plural. So an eclipse is where one object in space, it passes in front of a different object and then it blocks it out. So one object in space passes in front of another, and it either wholly blocks it out or it partially blocks it out, depending on where you are as the observer, the person who's looking at those objects. Partially or completely blocked. Alright, so here's an example of an eclipse, and this is called a solar eclipse. So at the back here is the sun, and in this eclipse, the moon has passed right over, it's passed in front of the sun, so that you can't see much of the sun anymore. So the moon has passed through space so that it's exactly between us and the sun, and so it's blocking out most of the sun. There are other types of eclipses too, and we'll learn more about those in later levels.